we will start the new chapter 2, the solution. And we know that a substance exists in three phases: solid, liquid and gaseous phase. We also know the general characteristic of these phases. So let us study as to what will happen if the substance belong to the same or different phases are mixed together. Or we can say the mixture is called solution. Now in the mixture, the different constituent may be present either in the same phase or in different phase. One phase may be your homogeneous or it may be your heterogeneous. For example, a mixture of oil and water is heterogeneous while that of salt and water is normally homogeneous. A homogeneous mixture of two or more substances is known as true solution or simply a solution. A heterogeneous mixture is called colloidal solution or a suspension. So in this chapter, we are going to study solution. So what is a solution? Solution is the homogeneous mixture of two or more pure non-reacting substances whose compositions can be varied with certain limits. Solution consists of two components. We can have solute as a smaller component and a solvent, a larger component. If the solution is made up of only two components like salt and water, it is known as binary solution. If it is made up of three components, it is known as your ternary solution. A solution of NaCl and KCl in water is an example of your ternary solution, and so on. We can have different type of solution depending upon their components. But depending upon what type of solute and solvent they are having, they can be classified into solid solution, liquid solution and gaseous solution. These solutions are basically on the basis of the type of solvent. If the solvent is solid, they are known as solid solution. If the solvent is liquid, they are known as liquid solution. And if the solvent is your gas, it is known as gaseous solution. So the solute can be varied in these solvents. If the solute is gas and the solvent is solid, we have an example here. Gases absorbed on the metal surface, or the adsorption of gases on the metal surface is known as solid solution, where solute is your gas. Alloys are the solutions in which solute is liquid and solvent is solid. Aerated drinks in which the gas is your solute and liquid is your solvent. Mixture of miscible liquids like milk and water, where both the solute and solvents are liquid. Salt in water is an example of solid in liquid. Air is an example of gas in gas. Humidity in air or water vapors in air is an example of liquid in gas solution. And iodine vapor in air is an example of solid in gases. Now, what is concentration of a solution? The amount of solute present in a solvent is known as its concentration. And there are different ways to find out the concentration of the solution. Some has been discussed earlier in your 11th standard also, and some more we are going to study here. The first one is your strength. Strength of a solution may be defined as the amount of solute in grams present in 1 liter of the solution. So the formula of the strength will become mass of solute upon volume of solution in liter, and its unit is gram per ml. Next one is your mass percentage. The number of parts of a mass of one component per 100 parts of the mass of the solution is known as your mass percentage, and its formula will become mass percentage of A component will be WA, that is your mass of solute A upon total mass of the solution into 100. If we have to find the mass percentage of B, we will have the formula mass of B upon total mass of the solution into 100, and same will be for the volume percentage. The number of parts of the volume of one component per 100 parts of the volume of the solution is known as your volume percentage. Here The mass percentage and volume percentage does not have any unit because they are fractions or they are in the form of percentage. Then there come ppm, parts per million. The number of parts by mass or by volume of one component per million parts of the mass or by volume of the solution is known as parts per million. The most important one here is your molarity, which is denoted by capital M, and it is the number of moles of grams of the solute dissolved per liter of the solution, and its unit will become mole per liter or capital M. If we mix the molarities of the two solutions, the formula will become M1V1 plus M2V2 is equal to M3V1 plus V2. Next one is our molarity, and molarity is the number of grams mole of the solute dissolved in 1000 grams or 1 kg of the solvent. It is denoted by small m and its unit is your mole per kg. There is a relation between molality and molarity. It is molality is equal to 1000 into molarity upon molarity into molar mass minus 1000 into density. And we have to solve the problems, numerical problems based on these formula. Next one is that the difference between molarity and molality. What is the difference between molarity and molality? The molarity, the volume of the solution is considered, while in molality, the mass of the solvent is taken into account. The second difference is that the volume of the solution changes with the temperature, while the mass of the solvent does not change. This means the molarity of a solution changes with temperature, whereas molality, that is small m, do not change. Molality of a solution is considered better for expressing the concentration of the solution as compared to that of molarity because it does not change with temperature. Next one is our mole fraction. The ratio of the number of moles of one component to the total number of moles of all the components present in the solution is known as mole fraction. For example, XA is equal to number of moles of A component divided by the total number of moles of the solution, and mole fraction for B component will be number of moles of the B component upon total moles of the solution. It has no unit because it is a ratio. There next comes the topic as solubility. We know that solubility means the amount of solute dissolved in a given amount of solvent. How much amount of solute is dissolved in the given amount of solvent will tell me the solubility. The dissolution of the solute in a particular solvent may be either physical or chemical process in nature. For example, when sodium chloride or any other salt dissolved in water, it is a physical process, but when zinc dissolved in dilute hydrochloric acid, it involves a chemical process. In the present unit, we shall concentrate only on the physical process. So here we are having three types of solutions. First one is solid in liquid solution, then liquid in liquid solution, then gas in liquid solution. And depending upon what type of solvent we are using, we are having aqueous solution and non-aqueous solution. Aqueous solutions are those solutions in which water acts as a solvent, whereas non-aqueous solutions are those solutions in which solvent is not water, it may be any organic solvent. The amount of solute in grams present in 100 gram of solvent in a saturated solution represent its solubility of the solute. And now what is saturated solution? When no more solute can be added at a particular temperature, that solution is known as saturated solution. And when more amount of solute can be added at a given temperature, that is known as your unsaturated solution. There is another type of solution which is known as supersaturated solution. If we cool a saturated solution, the solubility of the solute decreases and it will start coming out of the solution and will appear on the surface. Such type of solutions are known as supersaturated solution. This means, so on cooling a saturated solution, the solute comes out on the surface of the solvent, and such type of solutions are known as your supersaturated solution. Now there is a molecular view of solution process. For anything to dissolve in water or any type of solvent, we have to deal with three types of interactions. First one is your solvent-solvent interaction, that is A and A. We will always represent the solvent by A. Solute interaction, that is BB interaction. Solute-solvent interaction, that is your A and B interaction. For anything to dissolve in a solvent, first of all we have to separate the particles of the solvent. यानी कि we have to break the solvent-solvent interaction, and this process is always endothermic in nature. Heat has to be given to this to break this bond. Second step is the separation of the particles of the solute. It is also endothermic process. Again, heat has to be given to break the solute-solute bonding. The third step is it involves the intermixing of these particles to form the solution, and it may be endothermic or exothermic. That means now we have to make a new bond between A and B, solute and solvent, and this process may be your endothermic or exothermic. So in this way the solution is prepared or a solute dissolved in a given solvent. Now there are certain factors which influence the solubility of the solute. The first one is the nature of the solute and solvent, and here we are having like dissolve like. Means a polar solute will be dissolved in a polar solvent and a non-polar solute will be dissolved in a non-polar solvent. Second thing is your concentration of the solution. Concentration means when the solute is initially added to the solvent at a given temperature, its solubility is maximum, it will dissolve. As the concentration of the solution increases, the rate of dissolution of the solute decreases, solubility decreases, and the solution reaches to a saturated form. Ultimately, solution becomes saturated and no more of the solute dissolved in the solvent at that given temperature. Next one is your temperature, and temperature plays a very important impact on the solubility. That is why solubility is always expressed in the term of specific temperature. It may be of two types, endothermic and exothermic. For the endothermic process, increased temperature increases the solubility because heat absorbed is used up to separate the ions from the solute. And in exothermic process, increasing temperature decreases the solubility of the solute. Particle size, small crystals dissolve more readily since the surface to volume ratio is increased. Pressure, as pressure does not have any effect on the solubility of the solid in liquid. Now solubility can be of liquid in liquids, and that's also depend upon the magnitude of the attractive forces between the particles. If the attractive forces between the solute and solvent particles is more than that of solute-solute or solvent-solvent interaction, the liquid is miscible. Solubility of the gas in liquid will depends upon the nature of the gas and the solvent. Again, the like dissolves like. Effect of temperature. Solubility of a gas in a liquid decreases with the rise in temperature because process of dissolution is exothermic, and a rise in temperature likely to increase the kinetic energy of the gases, and the capacity to form bond is expected to decrease. Now pressure. The relation between pressure and solubility of a gas is given by Henry law. And what is Henry law? The mass of a gas dissolved in a given volume of the liquid at constant temperature depend upon the pressure which is applied. So, the mass of the substance dissolved, the mass of the gas dissolved is directly proportional to pressure at constant temperature. And partial pressure of the gas is directly proportional to the mole fraction of the gas in the solution. Therefore, P, that is pressure, equal to Kh, that will be your Henry constant, and xB, that is your mole fraction. If we increase the kH for a gas, lesser will be its solubility. As the temperature increases, the solubility of the gas tends to decrease. So we use the Henry law in our day-to-day life in order to increase the solubility of carbon dioxide in soft drinks and soda water. The bottles are sealed under high pressure. Second, oxygen is used by the deep sea divers. Is generally diluted with helium in order to reduce or minimize the painful effect during the decompositions. The partial pressure of oxygen in air is less than the pressure at the ground in high mountains. This means that lesser quantity of oxygen will be inhaled. This will leads to low concentration of oxygen in the blood and the tissues of the people living under the prevailing condition. They will be faced with breathing problem, and this is known as anoxia. As the partial pressure of the oxygen in air is high, the lungs, it combines with hemoglobin to form oxyhemoglobin. In tissues, the partial pressure of oxygen is low and the carbon dioxide is high. Therefore, oxyhemoglobin release oxygen in order to carry out cellular process. There are some limitations of the Henry law also, that the law is applicable to gases only under ideal condition, that is under low pressure and at high temperature. The molecules of the gas should not dissociate or associate in solution, that is, the gas has the same molecular state in the liquid as well as gaseous phase. The gas should not react chemically with the solvent to form any compound. So there should not be any chemical reaction between the solute and solvent. If there is a chemical reaction between solute and solvent, Henry law will fail there. Now there comes the vapor pressure of the liquid. Now what is a vapor pressure? If we go for the vapor pressure will be the pressure exerted by the vapors of the liquid in equilibrium with liquid at a given temperature. When a liquid is taken in an open container, at a certain temperature, the molecules present on the surface are pulled inward or outward by the molecule present below them. These inward pull prevent the surface molecule from escaping out of the surface of the liquid as vapors. However, if we increases the temperature, more vibrations occur on the surface molecule and they escapes from the surface and converts into vapors. So more and more vapors will be formed. But at a certain temperature, the rate of evaporation and in a closed container, the rate of evaporation and rate of condensation will be same. So they are in phase equilibrium now, and the pressures will be exerted by the vapors also on the liquid which is present in the container, and this pressure is known as your vapor pressure. So again, there are some factors which affect the vapor pressure. The first one is the nature of liquid. Magnitude of the intermolecular forces present in the molecules will help us to find what will be the vapor pressure. If the magnitude between the liquid is low, so the vapors can be easily formed and more will be the vapor pressure. But if the magnitude of the magnitude of force between the liquid is more, they will not be allowed to escape in the form of vapors. As a result, less vapors will be produced and there will be less vapor pressure. Next one is your Raoult's law. Raoult's law, the partial pressure of a volatile component present in the solution is directly proportional to the mole fraction of that component at a given temperature. This means that if we there is a binary solution of the two miscible volatile liquids, suppose alcohol and water I take. Okay, so the pressure exerted, vapor pressure exerted by alcohol, let's say it is PA, and the vapor pressure of water be PB. These are the partial vapor pressures, and according to the Dalton's law of partial pressure, the total vapor pressure will be PA plus PB. The partial vapor pressure of the two components will be related to their mole fraction XA and XB by Raoult's law. So Raoult's law says that the partial vapor pressure of a volatile component, volatile mean they can be converted into vapors, present in a solution is directly proportional to the mole fraction of that component at a given temperature. So PA is directly proportional to XA, and to remove the proportionality sign, we are having PA equal to KXA. If XA is 1, mole fraction of that component is 1, that means PA is equal to constant. This means that only one component is present and the other one is absent, or it is non-volatile. As a result, this P naught A is the partial vapor pressure of the pure solution, and we denote it by P naught A. P naught A is the vapor pressure of the component when present in pure form. Therefore, in a solution, the vapor pressure of the partial component at a given temperature is equal to the mole fraction of that component in the solution multiplied by the vapor pressure when present in pure form, and it's become PA is equal to P naught A pure form vapor pressure into its mole fraction XA. PB will be your P naught B pure vapor pressure of that mole component into its mole fraction XB. And if I have to find it P total according to Dalton's law, PA plus PB, so P naught A XA plus P naught B XB, and we can solve it like that. The total vapor pressure of the binary solution containing volatile component can be calculated if we know the partial vapor pressure of both the pure component and the mole fraction of any one of these. So this Raoult's law is also a special case of Henry law. We have seen that in Henry law, partial pressure is directly proportional to XA, and there is the proportionality constant which is known as KH. If we compare these two expressions, only the difference between the constants are there. In the Raoult's law, we are having P naught A, and in Henry law, we are having KH. Otherwise, in both the cases, the partial pressure of a component, volatile component of the liquid is directly proportional to its mole fraction. So, therefore, Raoult's law is also known as special case of Henry law. If the Raoult's law for the solution containing non-volatile component, so it will be only one component is there which is converting into vapors. So the partial pressure will be the same, the total pressure will be the same as that of the partial pressure of that component. So P is equal to, that is the total pressure will be equal to PA, that is P naught XA. On adding a non-volatile solute to a solvent, the vapor pressure of the solution also get lowered because lesser number of vapors will be formed on the surface and less pressure will be exerted. Now there are two types of solution. One is your ideal solution and the second one is your non-ideal solution. Those solution which obeys the Raoult's law, that means the partial pressure is directly proportional to its mole fraction of that gas at all concentration and temperature is known as ideal solution. In these solution, the force of interaction between the solute-solvent is equal to the force of interaction between the solute-solute and solvent-solvent molecules. There is no change in the volume when we both mix the solute and solvent. Therefore, delta V mixing, change in volume on mixing is 0. There is no change in the enthalpy. Delta H, that is change in enthalpy on mixing, is also 0. And here I have made a graph between the vapor pressure and the mole fraction. If the mole fraction of XA is 1, the vapor pressure is P naught A. As the mole fraction of XA is decreasing to 0, the vapor pressure is also decreasing. And this line indicates PA is equal to P naught A XA. If the mole fraction of the another component XB is 0, its pressure is also 0, and as it is increasing to 1, the vapor pressure of that component is also increasing to P naught B. So PB is equal to P naught B XB, and the total will be PT is equal to PA plus PB. And the non-ideal solution are those solutions which does not obey the Raoult's law at all concentration and temperature. So in these cases, the intermolecular forces of attraction between A and B, that is solute and solvent, is not equal to the interaction between solute-solute or solvent-solvent. The volume change in volume mixing is also not equal to 0, and the enthalpy change is also not equal to 0. If they are not equal to 0, they are either greater than 0 or less than 0. So again, non-ideal solutions are of two types: positive deviations from the Raoult's law, those solutions in which AB interaction is less than AA, or BB interaction, they shows the positive deviations from the Raoult's law. In these cases, the partial pressure of PA will be greater than P naught A XA and PB will be greater than P naught B XB. They are not equal. Delta V mixing is greater than 0 and delta enthalpy mixing will be also greater than 0. Examples I have given you. If it is the negative deviation of the ideal solution, if the AB interaction is more than AA or BB interaction, okay, this means P naught A is less than that of your P naught A XA, or PB is less than P naught B XB. Delta V mixing is less than 0 and delta H mixing is also less than 0. Those solution will give us negative deviations from Raoult's law. So according to the Raoult's law, we are having two types of solution: ideal solution and non-ideal solution. Again, non-ideal solutions are of two types: positive deviations from Raoult's law and negative deviations from Raoult's law. That's all for the chapter, these topics.